I'm probably the most spoiled slash entitled girl on planet Earth. But at the end, she gets owned pretty hard, and it's pretty satisfying. It's a good moment of like that beautiful, beautiful karma, right? Karma's real, man, and this story is proof. So sit back, relax, grab something to drink, and enjoy. Preferably, what you're drinking is like water. Stay hydrated, man. Hydrate or dihydrate, baby. Let's go. Anyways, right, so the subscriber who sent in today's story, let's just call this guy Mike, right? Anyway, so Mike's a good kid. And anyways, in this class, Mike there's this girl in this class, and this girl, she's kind of like the spoiled girl, and we're gonna give her a name too. Let's call her Rachel, right? All right, so Mike and Rachel. Anyways, there's a pretty big test coming up, and this class isn't like super easy. This isn't a class you can kind of goof around it and do well in. This is definitely a class where you need to be grinding, man. You need to be on top of your game. You need to be like 100% okay, maybe not 100% dialed in, but like it's a hard class. You can't be just winging it. This is not a wingable class. But anyways, right, so, Mike is sitting there and, Rachel's in his class, and there's a pretty big test coming up. And then Rachel kind of turns to everyone and is just like, I don't need to study for this. And Mike's just like, dude, no, you need to study for this. Like, I don't care who you are. And Rachel was like, nope. I am incredibly smart. Even my daddy says so. And at this point, Mike's just like, bro, like, you cannot be serious, dude. Like, oh my, like, okay, like, okay, man, okay, cool, that's cool, whatever, right? But anyways, right, she just goes on to say, yes, naturally, I'm just born incredibly smart, and I'm just at a different level of intellect, and my father says so. He says, oh, you're so smart, and honestly, I don't think I need to study for this. I believe I can figure it all out. I can comprehend all the information on the day of the test. At this point, Mike's a decently smart guy, right? This guy's no slacker. He puts in the effort, he puts in the work, he's quick on his feet, he's definitely put in the hours to do well in this class. He's just looking at her like, what planet does this girl live on, dude? Like, honestly, what planet does this girl live on? And yeah, she keeps going off, and there's like, it's not just Mike, right? There's other kids that she's talking to about like how smart she is, man. And at this point, everyone's just like, oh my God, are you delusional, dude? Like, this was the first major test, so there wasn't really any other assessment that would gauge how well you do in the class before this one. And they really didn't know because maybe, look, there's a slight chance this girl's actually pretty smart. A slight chance. However, dude, let's be honest, if you're like actually that smart, you're not going to be going around telling people, oh my God, I'm so smart. And the proof I have of it is my daddy says I'm smart. Like, that's just not proof you're just not gonna be doing that, man. It's just not something you're gonna be doing. But anyways, right, so Mike goes back home. He studies for the test like a good guy, like good kid, Everyone else in that class was kind of like a higher up class, so to be fair, it wasn't like anyone could get in. So obviously Rachel, they thought at least, probably had some qualifications. In retrospect, and like obviously with what happened, it kind of seems like that Rachel's parents kind of stepped in and said, my daughter should be in the advanced class. Why are you putting her in the D-cell class or whatever? And dude, here's the thing. I've been in advanced math. I've been in D-cell math. I've been in regular math. No disrespect if you're in any of those maths, right? I've literally been in every single one. But yeah, so while this isn't confirmed, Mike is pretty sure that, like, her parents definitely stepped in and were like, my daughter definitely deserves to be in the higher class. Like, oh, why are you putting her in the lower class? She has to be in the highest class, whatever, because she's very smart and very intelligent, and we're going to make a big muck if you don't do it. And at this point, right, the school's like, okay, like, I mean, our math tutors or teachers have come together and came to, like, the best placement for your daughter, but okay, like, sure, we'll do it. Okay, like fine, whatever, like, dig your own grave. We don't care. Like, okay, if you're gonna make a big stink out of it, like, okay, fine, like, have your daughter fail. What they didn't say that, but they're like, okay, whatever. Like, it's against our best judgment, and we suggest otherwise because of, the people we pay thousands of dollars a year who have, like, specialized in this stuff say otherwise, but okay. Mr. Whatever, okay. For that reason, right, Rachel has already got this feeling like that she's special, man, that she's smart, that she's something else, right, that she's just like, she's built different. She's in the accelerated math, which, I mean, they're all in the accelerated math, but she's in the accelerated math, man, and her dad says that she's smart. So for some reason, she's like telling people, I don't need to study. So yeah, so Mike and everyone else in the class ends up studying for this massive exam, and she does not. And you come in on the day of the exam, and Mike sits down, and she's sitting there. And let me just say that she's looking a little bit sweaty. She's looking a little bit like, oh my God, what have I? She's looking a little bit regretful that she didn't actually. And she's like, a little bit of panic is seeping through her facade, right? A little bit of panic. Just a tad, though. Nothing too crazy. And the test is really hard. But the thing is, right, Mike feels like, wow, this is pretty hard. And I studied a lot for this. Mike ends up feeling pretty good about the test, and when he gets it back in a couple days, that's going to be a pretty critical part of the story, but not Mike's results. It's Rachel's results that start a huge chain reaction meltdown or whatever. Anyways, right, Mike ends up doing pretty decent on the test, but he felt like it was pretty hard, and he was thinking to himself during the test, he's like, if I feel like this is hard, and I studied for a long time, and I'm a decently smart kid, like, when you're a decently smart kid, right? And Mike's just like, if I studied really hard, and this feels really hard, like, Rachel screwed, dude. Like, there was no chance. A little part of him was like, maybe she's actually a super genius, even though I can almost guarantee 100% if you're a super genius, man, you're not going around telling people that you're a super genius. That's just not the case, bro. But anyways, right, he's just like, wow, yeah, Rachel? Yeah, she's screwed. Oh my God, I almost lost monetization for a second. So anyways, right, while Mike is doing the test, he kind of looks up at Rachel, and she has, like, nothing down on the paper. She legitimately has nothing down on the, like, because you're given a piece of scrap paper to, like, do some work, and, like, you have to, like, fill in, like, your step process or whatever. Nothing was filled out. And it was, like, 2/3 of the way through the test. She was just staring at it blankly. And Mike was like, all right, well, maybe she's doing all the calculations in her head and waiting to put the answers to last minute. But, yeah, guys, that's pretty unlikely. And Mike also realized that, that's pretty unlikely, dude. So, yeah, he kind of was like, oh, well, she failed that. Well, that's not a total shocker. That's not a total surprise. But anyways, right, Mike finishes his test. He walks up and he walks past Rachel. Rachel is, like, legitimately nothing down on the piece of paper. He wasn't even, like, seeing it weirdly, or there wasn't, like, a lighting thing that, like, prevented him from seeing it. No, she legitimately had nothing on the paper. So after going on a tangent about how incredibly genius she is and how she doesn't need to smart, she doesn't need to smart. She doesn't need to study because she's smart. She basically has written nothing down. But anyways, right, Mike leaves because he hands in the work. He's done. And, a couple days later, they're in class again, and the teacher has finally graded the test. So when the day comes and she actually grades the test and she starts handing stuff back, right, Mike gets the test back. He gets like an 80 or something, which in some classes, 80 is not good, but in, like, this was like a math class or something, and a pretty difficult one. But, like, an 80 in a difficult math class is not bad at all, especially in a very hard test. But anyways, right, Mike looks up, and, Rachel's not gotten her test back yet. And the teacher's walking around handing tests, and she's basically putting them on a lot of people's desks face up. Because, like, I don't know, that's just how she was doing it. But when she got to Rachel's, right, she very purposely flipped the paper around so that the paper would be down, face down. So at that point, right, Mike knew, yep, she failed. She absolutely bombed that thing. Like, there's no chance. And Mike, I don't know why I'm calling him Michael. Mike. I mean, you know who I'm talking about. But Mike, right, he's watching Rachel, and Rachel flips the piece of paper around. She looks at it, and her eyes just go wide, dude. Mike is just watching as Rachel is comprehending the fact that she probably mega bombed this test after telling everyone that she's a super genius and super smart, right? So at this point, Rachel has a couple ways of going about this. Plays it super cool, goes to the teacher after class. If anyone asks, she did well. If anyone wants to see her test, right, she just doesn't show it to them. Another way she could go about it, which is potentially the way that she went about it, is have a massive psychotic meltdown claiming that she'll actually sue the teacher. I'm going to let you guys think for a second on which one she did. Comment A or B in the comment section down below. But yeah, anyways, let's hop right into it. If you chose B, then you're a genius, or you just, knew how these stories would go. Anyways, right. So, she raises her hand, and she looks up, and she says, Teacher, there must be a mistake. Please come over here. And the teacher, right, who knows that she absolutely bombed the thing and knows that there was no mistake, because dude probably double-checked her work, like double-checked to make sure that she actually completely failed, because you wouldn't want to fail someone that bad on a little mistake, right, or on multiple mistakes. So the teacher comes over and says, I'm pretty sure there's no mistake, but what's up? Like, what's the mistake? Because, like, sometimes there might be a mistake. Because, like, sometimes teachers make mistakes. For example, a teacher made a mistake on my thing like last semester, right? And I pointed it out very specifically and very, nicely, cordially. Everyone makes mistakes. And they were like, yeah, sure, I can fix that. My bad, right? But when you come over, what she did instead, Rachel had the teacher come over and she's like, teacher, here's the mistake, and points to the grade. Nothing that the teacher graded incorrectly, but the grade itself. And the teacher looks at her and says, sorry, Rachel, there's nothing wrong with that. That's your grade. And Rachel just looks at this teacher blankly for a second. Just looking at this teacher very blankly for a second. And then she gets all mad and she looks at the teacher and just stands up and says, my dad is going to sue you. And at this point, right, Mike is just like, what the what? And the whole class is just speechless. Their mouths are open. They're just like, what? What did this girl just say? And she's like, yeah, my dad's gonna sue you. Speaking of teachers getting threatened to be sued by, psycho spoiled girls, today's word is teacher. So if you made it this far into the video, comment teacher down below. I try and heart as many of the people in the comment section who say the secret word. I can't heart them all, obviously. I have to sleep and do work. I'm at school right now, in college currently. But I really do my best to try and heart as many of them as I can to say thank you guys so much for, watching and giving me watch time. I do appreciate you a lot. Also, today is your lucky day, man, because for every single person who leaves a like on today's video, simply leaving a like, you will actually receive nothing right in front of you. I'm not even kidding, dude. Leave a like in this video, and within 5 minutes, nothing will appear in front of you. And I'm giving you a very special limited time offer. If you also, while you are down there leaving a like, turn on notifications to the channel, you will receive 2 nothings in front of you when you leave a like and turn on notifs. So crazy. I'm super generous. Back to the story. Anyways, right, so this teacher is just looking at her kind of in disbelief that the fact that Rachel, his student, legitimately just threatened that her dad would sue this guy just because she got a bad grade on a test, right? This girl was definitely living in a different planet, which while Mike was sitting there completely shocked, he wasn't it wasn't the most shocking thing ever because obviously this girl was living in a completely different planet by her conversation with him earlier about how she's actually a super genius and, doesn't have to study for anything. And proof is because dad said so. So yeah. But anyways, right. So the teacher looks at her and was like, sue me for what? He legitimately just stood up as well, matched her body language, was like, yeah, sue me for what, buddy? She didn't say buddy, but that was the vibe, right? And she's just so taken aback because normally the teachers are because I don't know, her dad was kind of a powerful dude or whatever, super smart lawyer man that had lots of money or whatever. Obviously not a justification for being a jerk, but at the same time, no one really wanted to mess with him. But yeah, this was the first time she'd ever been confronted like this. So she was like, he's gonna sue you, man. She just went back for sue. And then the teacher was like, all right, yeah, sure, send it. Have him sue me. And the whole class is like, yo, because this is the first time a teacher's actually stood up to this girl. I kind of forgot to say earlier, but Rachel was kind of a little notorious for basically people bending to every whim and command that she had. And no, she just was all right, then I'll call my dad. And everyone's like, oh, okay, it's going down. All right, I see how it is, right? And so she, she pulls out her phone, calls up her dad and says, Dad, this teacher failed me on purpose. And her dad's like, what? Well, what do you mean? And she's like, he failed me on purpose. And the teacher's like, may I speak to your father? And she's like, no. And she's like, Dad, you gotta sue him. And the dad's like, sweetie, of course I'll help you out, but sue him for what? On what legal grounds? And she said, I don't know, for being mean? At this point, right, you could hear the dad because he was on speakerphone. The dad was like, all right, sweetie, let's just deal with this later. And she quickly turns off the phone and was like, you'll regret this. And legitimately grabs her bag, storms out of class. Mike is just sitting there okay, man, what the fuck? And the teacher just kind of addresses the class well, that's not exactly how I thought, this Tuesday would be going. And everyone kind of breaks out in laughter because it was very nervous tension. So they were like, okay, thank God, a little joke here or there. And yeah, so Rachel didn't come to class for a couple days, but then she came in and like Mike noticed her go up to the teacher and apparently like she apologized or whatever and said that, she's sorry for failing the test and also the outburst and everything. And she sat down and she really didn't talk to anyone for weeks at that point. She was just very dialed in and super embarrassed, obviously. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go watch another video. There's some on screen. Click it. Click it. Click it or you suck. I don't know.